The Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle for Nintendo Game Boy. In all honesty, isn't really that bad of a game. I'm not going to say it's a misunderstood classic or anything like that because it really isn't. But as far as games being written off as shit-y or anything like that, it's probably the least offensive game I've played, and hey, this thing had to be popular enough to merit a few sequels, so yeah, why not? So, the premise of the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle is that you're Bugs Bunny and your main goal is to navigate the level and collect all the carrots to move on to the next, all the while avoiding other Looney Tunes antagonists, and that's your main thing in all 80 levels of Crazy Castle. Now the catch here is that there's no jump button, hence you cannot jump. As such, your only means of reaching higher platforms is by entering these doors and pipes, which are linked to another on a higher or lower platform. As such, you generally have to determine which doors go where or which pipes lead to where, all the while memorizing the patterns of the various opposition so that you don't end up seeing stars. You do have a few things to help you out. There are various objects that you can push to kill enemies, if used correctly that is. And you can also collect punching gloves that can be used to fire off at any point at any foes that might have you trapped someplace. And while it only takes one touch from a foe to do the bunny in, you do get an extra life for clearing a level, so that's a bit of help. Control in Crazy Castle is fairly simple and straightforward, but I'd be lying if I said they were accurate. You move about by pressing left or right on the D-pad, and you enter doors or pipes by pressing up or down, depending on where it leads. But pressing up or down when not standing directly in front of said door or pipe will cause you to move forwards in the direction you're facing, which can be an annoying and sometimes fatal inconvenience. There is also the penchant for the frequent cheap death scenario, where you will enter a door or a pipe that will exit to a section of the level, which is generally out of sight, only for you to exit and collide with an enemy almost instantaneously without warning. It only further emphasizes the need to memorize the board in order to produce a successful strategy, but said strategies are difficult to fully plan out when a tiny portion of it is dependent on dumb blind luck involving a section of level that you cannot see. This ends up being a more likely scenario as you progress onwards and the screen starts scrolling 4 ways due to the enormity of the boards. It's also around this point where the game begins to struggle a bit, resulting in some really nasty slowdown and heavy flickering plaguing the game. Regardless though, Crazy Castle does support 80 levels of collecting carrots and avoiding enemies, with little to no deviation from that formula. Suffice it to say you'll most likely be bored after 20 straight levels of this thing, so it's a matter of a game being best played in moderation. And because 80 levels is simply too much game for any one sitting, unless you've really got nothing better to do, you do have a rather convenient password system that is short and easy to use. It's not a full-on battery backup save system, but it's still better than nothing. Another nifty feature that's included here is the ability to watch a replay of your progress in the previous level that you just cleared, which seems a bit redundant when all you want to do is move along to the next level, but hey, it's not a bad feature and it does record your movements fairly accurately. In theory, you could use this as a means to developing a strategy after a failed attempt at a level or something. I don't know, I thought it was a nice little touch. Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle looks simplistic but otherwise perfectly acceptable visual fodder for a game of this ilk. The levels are barren in regards to backgrounds and comprise simple pipes, platforms, doors, and other things. Nothing to break a sweat over, these look fine. In regards to the Looney Tune characters themselves, they actually look pretty good. Not in terms of animation, because there's only a few frames, but the sprites are well done that you could recognize who's who without squinting your eyes too much. Bugs Bunny looks like Bugs Bunny, Sylvester looks like Sylvester, and so on and so forth. Even the various weapons like crates and weights look like those things, and it's not like they needed to put that much effort in this regard, but indeed it paid off with some accurate looking character sprites. On the other hand, sound is something of a mixed bag, comprising some rather weak sound effects along with a small collection of rather mediocre music. Nothing particularly memorable in this regard, and they get tiresome after a while, especially in a game with 80 levels in it. Oh well. Overall, Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle is a mildly amusing puzzle platformer on the Game Boy, and if you come into this with that particular mindset, the possibility exists that you may very well get some semblance of enjoyment out of this game. The premise is straightforward, the gameplay is functional, the challenge is there, and there's a good deal of content in regards to level count, although this is a case where it's best played in small doses rather than a single sitting, 80 levels remember. Anyone looking for an action-packed side-scrolling adventure game should steer clear of Crazy Castle because that's not what this game is. But if you want a nice little puzzler to kill some time, this isn't too bad of a deal. Now apparently, the Crazy Castle series gets better from here, but I have no way of knowing since, well, this is my first and only foray into the Crazy Castle series, and I have no real intention of following up on the series unless I come across one of the later entries for really dirt cheap. But I do know this one thing. Rolling Rock tastes like crap, and I can't believe I spent $3 on that thing. God damn it.